All right, sir. We got an update. We were talking about this last week,
Yeah.
and just so happened that someone asked the big cheese, Mr. Bob Iger, the question. What did they ask, sir?
Yeah, the question was literally with Epic Universe opening up in Orlando in 2025, why hasn't Disney prepared anything or placed more than just a handful of attractions in the pipeline to be ready in 2025 at Walt Disney World? Can I read the answer in its entirety, or do you want me just to jump through it?
You can jump. You can jump through it.
Okay, so Iger says, "Well, thank you very much for your question," and he jumps right into saying that that's simply not true. Basically, spread over the years, they have taken the approach of saying, we have done things like the world of Avatar and Toy Story, and Galaxy's Edge, and making Mini Runaway, and obviously Tron and Guardians of the Galaxy and Remy, and billions of dollars going into the reimagining of Epcot. And so, like, we've done all of these things already. As from the moment that we knew that announcement, it's been staggered, of Epic Universe, and then also saying that, like, they've done things to create more revenue, create more jobs, just overall tourism economics. And then the real big kicker was at the very end, where he says, we've also, discussed our $60 billion capital expenditure plans. That's much for coming to our parks around the world, including Florida. And I think that's the part to me that was like the biggest kicker. Is one, it's like pushing back on the narrative of like, no, we've actually been doing stuff. Which, if you remember,
What you
Obed,
just said?
I said it. I was like,
Yeah.
no, like it's false. Like they've been literally putting little by little all around over the
Right.
years. So he echoed that. But the real kicker was the thing that you have been alluding to for a while, of saying like, hey, they got to do another park or something like that because the demand is so high. And he's alluding to it very strongly. He can't make any promises, which is the right thing to say. But saying like, we've got capital ready. We've got a plan. Stay tuned is how I took it.
Yeah. That's yeah. Same thing. I found it really interesting because I was reading it. I was like, oh man, this is like exactly the same thing that we said last week.
I know.
It was like what? He,
Bob's listening.
like yeah, right, right.
Hi, Bob.
No, and no, it's. I don't think that
No,
I don't think he's listening. I think that we may know what we're talking about.
that's probably way more accurate.
Oh, oh. So
We know, we know.
yeah, and I understand the journalist question, right? Because that seems to be like a
That
sentiment.
wasn't a journalist. That was a stakeholder.
It was a stakeholder. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Oh,
I had to look.
okay,
I
okay,
didn't
okay,
think this
okay.
was real. I'd be honest with you. I didn't think this was real at first.
Okay.
When I first saw it on social media, I was like, "This is some AI generated thing, like whatever." I was like, "Oh snap! No, this is real."
Okay, I thought it was a. I thought it was a journalist. So thanks for correcting me.
No worries.
Um, in like in the big picture, right? It seems like they're just dilly dallying and not doing anything. But when you put it in context, then you know, in the last 5 years, or last 7 years, or they've really made the investment. It's just that you don't see it because it's additions. It's not. I think that they are expecting a blockbuster announcement or something of the magnitude of a new park when you already have four. Build around those four and expand those four, and I just don't see that a lot of people see that. And I agree to that sentiment, right? Because there needs to be another there has to be another gate at WDW. It's gotten to the point. I mean, they keep adding hotel rooms. I don't know why, right? And
Mm.
that's the thing. It's like they keep adding stuff and more hotel rooms, and not even just them, like Wyndham and that hotel with like the beach pool that opened recently. So there's other hotels in the area opening, and they just don't have the capacity.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes from, right? But they do have very attractive. Especially now with Epcot. It's like, and we can go back to Epcot, and I got my feelings about that, and yeah, there's things that could be better. We've discussed it in the show, right? It was like it's been the journey into imagination, like bringing it back to what it was originally, like the original ride. Everyone loved it back in the day. Like there's rumors that something's going to happen with that. Um,
Yeah.
uh, uh, I'm still pitching the Sega Play Pavilion in the
He,
old
he kind of
Wonders
has a
of Life.
Sega thing behind him.
Yeah, I'm still pitching it over at the old Wonders of Life Pavilion. We got the remodel, right? The Moana thing, the France expansion. So there's stuff happening. Uh, you know, Avatar is huge, right? It was already been there for a few years, but it's a good addition to the park. A park that definitely needed it. A park that is in need of another one, right? And then you go back to studios, and that's the one that's really been transformed in the last 7 years, right? With
Huge.
Toy Story and Galaxy's Edge. That I think that park is could potentially be the better one out of all their parks right now.
Yeah.
And when it comes to theming, right? And I know that a lot of people is like, oh, well, there's not really theming because they're just, IP lands, right? I was like, well, it still doesn't matter, right? It's themed. Like the park is very well divided, and I think that park flows very well. Where you go to the main entrance and you got the Hollywood Boulevard, and the you get into Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster, and then it flows right into Runaway Railway, and then it switches to Star Wars, and then it switches to Muppets, and then it's with Galaxy's Edge, and it just flows so well. And um, I think a lot of people are just not really paying attention. So
Yeah.
and I'm a purist. Like I think that a peak WDW is like 1994. That is peak Walt Disney World. Like there was not a better time than 93, 94, 95. You cannot top it. But me being and that's just me, like idealistically looking back at the parks, right? But I can tell you that Hollywood Studios is a much better park now than what it
Yeah.
was. So
Yeah.
that's you know we can debate it, right? And I'm sure we could
Sure.
I'm sure we could have a debate on it, but I will gladly stand my ground. Epcot, on the other hand, is the one that's been a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Um, I think that some of the rides, with the exception of possibly Test Track, I think Test Track is and Nemo. They're much superior to what the previous ride was.
Okay.
Um,
Which test track's gonna get updated soon.
so yeah,
Again.
yep, right. So, but everything else in the park, I just don't think I don't think it lives up um, to what the park was back in the 90s. So, and again, this is just me on the mindset that I always think of Epcot as like a a
A
science
world
center.
showcase.
Yeah, a science center on steroids, right? And that's to me what it was. And they tried to shift that um, to mixed results. Again, I think Guardians is a great addition. It doesn't
Hmm.
it clashes with the theming of the park, but as a ride, you cannot deny that thing rocks, dude. I think so good. So it's very interesting. Um, Going back to Epic Universe, it's a huge deal, right? And people are paying attention to what Universal's doing, and they've been doing it, and their messaging has been very clear. They haven't gone off track, and then people are listening to what they're doing, and I think that the stakeholder is right by raising a concern that yes was addressed, but not in the magnitude that you guys were expecting us to address it. You just go back to Disney's messaging in the last few years, and I don't necessarily blame Iger for this. You
Right.
know, we've had like 2 years of like the worst messaging that any company could give to anything. So I don't really blame him for that, because the time to answer was back when before the pandemic started, and we all know who was in charge back then. So yeah, they got to do something. They got to do something. Not just only at this point to rival Epic Universe, but something that could keep or appease the stakeholders. Right? Bob just dodged a bullet, a huge bullet. Right? I was in favor of him. That I politically speaking, I was 100% behind him. If you're gonna if we're gonna go that in that route, but yeah, he needs to step up and they need to get better with their messaging, and they are right. I want to say that the last year their messaging has been consistent and has been fairly solid. There's still some glaring issues, but it seems like they're going in the right direction. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have anything else
I
to
mean,
add.
like, I just think it's like important that like the way he handled it was really well with the question, and the person asking the question is how I think a lot of people feel, but even more so, this is important because it's a shareholder, because clearly this reflects a sentiment of concern.
Right.
This thing's they see the announcements of Epic Universe and they're like, why haven't you guys done something to compete? Because this thing's coming next year and it's gonna be good. Like that makes it sound the way it's worded sounds like there's concern. And at the same extent, like Bob took the approach of like educating the shareholders and really did, I think, a great job of quelling the concern, or at least making people evaluate their concern of going like, wait a second, they haven't been sitting on their hands. Like, wait, this is the Epic Universe didn't just pop up in 2024 where they just started working. Like, this has been worked on for a very long time.
Yeah.
Um, Probably Universal's biggest project since they've been here in Florida. Just of its magnitude, a park that's as big as Islands and Universal together. And the amount of money they put behind this thing is just enormous. So, yeah, like he took the approach of just educating people, and I something we've been trying to communicate on this show, not because of trying to defend Disney, but just saying like this is literally the actions they took. I think though the fact that he left that last line of, "Hey, we're good,
We
have
got
60
stuff.
million here,
Yeah.
like we've got plans." That's the best way to do it because then people can speculate. There's clearly like, Universal has brought out a canon and Disney's about to bring out their own. And it's not Pirates of the Caribbean 7 or whatever they're making. It's much bigger than that. And they made it clear it's worldwide, but that includes Florida. So
Right.
that's the other part. I heard another influencer say too. They're like, guys, Disney doesn't have to just worry about Orlando. Like they've got parks all over.
Right.
I'm sure you saw also about the Disneyland concept art for Pandora, what they're doing over there.
Yep.
I love that it looks different. Like
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And there's clearly some kind of boat ride too that might be different out there too.
And they I don't think we talked about it, but they purchased more land across from Disneyland, like on the other side of the highway.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I didn't hear that.
there's talks that and it's as big as the
Wow.
park. So there's talks that there could be a third park over there.
Wow. Okay. So see, yeah. So this,
Yeah.
this is gonna be years in the making.
Right. It's gonna be a long time. Yeah. but going back to the parks and themings and IP, I think it's time for Disney to start. I want to say extending an olive branch, or not necessarily an olive branch, but start working with partners outside of their IPs, because there's IPs out there that are not part of theme parks here in the US, more specifically. I think you know where I'm coming from because you probably saw
Yes.
the announcement.
Yeah.
Everyone's freaking flipping out about that Dragon Ball park in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Why not partner with, you know, I guess Crunchyroll at this point, or whoever owns the rights here, Birch Studio Shueisha. And why not bring something like that here? Why not
Yeah.
partner with them? It's like, hey, we can do this thing. We can do it better. And I mean, it doesn't have to be a full park. It could be a land within the park, like Super Nintendo World, right?
Right.
And that will bring people in. That's an IP. It's a valuable IP.
Absolutely.
Why not reach out to, again? Why not get Sonic? Sonic's pretty big. Kids like Sonic.
And they don't have to own Sega. They don't have to own
They
like to do
partner.
this.
Yeah, they
Just
can they
partner.
can
Yeah.
partner, right? And I know that these guys are making a ton of money. Like I know Sega's making again, like Sega right now is making more money than he did in the 90s, back when they partnered with Disney and they had a full freaking pavilion dedicated
Right.
to their games. So,
That was the Eisner days, right?
yes, yeah. So it was like 94 until, was it 92 or 94? It was probably like 90. Sorry, it was like 93. It was like, I think, 93 to 2002. Yeah,
Yeah.
it ended when the Dreamcast ended, and then they. I remember when that happened, they started putting PS2s with Kingdom Hearts instead, and the Cars game, and all the like the Disney IP games that were coming out for PS2 and GameCube. That's what they had
Yeah.
after Sega left. But it didn't compare when it came to like theming, like the theme, the it was incredible, right?
Right.
So there's people out there with valuable IPs that could attract a lot of people to your park. And why not start looking outside your IPs? I don't think I do, I want to get in trouble. You know what? I'm gonna get in trouble because of my experience. My daughter has never been attracted to Disney princess stuff. Like, you'll get a Frozen thing here and there, but it's been just the passing interest. But not they're too late to get Pokemon. I think that's gonna end up at either Islands of or studios. So I don't know if you saw that. There's rumors that the Fast and Furious ride is closing. So there's
Yes. Yeah.
there's probably something coming
Yeah.
out, new coming out there. They're Disney's too late to do anything with Nintendo. But you can get you can get the second best, right? You can do Sega. You can do so many other properties, like outside of just you know their stuff. Like, I don't think girls really care about princesses that much anymore. It's just, I think that their interests have changed, and that's something that I've observed with my kid, and I can see it when I go to her school, right?
Yeah.
And and you can see it on like content, like YouTube content.
Oh, for sure.
Especially YouTube. Like, if you're a good parent and you're paying attention to what your kids are watching, you would see that a lot of kids content in YouTube has nothing to do with like magic and princesses and unicorns and fairies. It's you know it's different now. And I know that's the reason why they shifted a lot of the Marvel and Star Wars stuff to appeal to girls because they don't really care about princesses anymore.
There's a demand. There's a
Yeah,
demand.
which is crazy because the whole purpose of them buying Marvel to begin with was we need something for boys, right?
Literally said like at the table.
Yeah, and now it's flipping because like now they have to expand it because just princesses don't do it anymore. They just don't cut anymore. That's why you need to have properties outside of your own.
Yeah.
So I think it's time for them to go listen. They do have strong brand value and probably top three brand value when it comes to IPs for sure, right? But there are other brands out there right now that are hot that are being overlooked just because they don't want to reach out and they just want to stay in their own IP bubble. It's time to burst the bubble, go out, grab some of these like high value IPs, start making stuff. You know what? I don't know, man. It's just me.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thought. Definitely. I'm sure that all the stuff we're talking about here, like I said, years in the making. To even get a partnership with any of those people you're talking about, I'm sure some calls have been made, whether that's by Universal or Disney, maybe both. Maybe there's gonna be some bidding wars that we don't know about behind the
Right?
scenes.
Right?
But just on a conversational level on our podcast, it makes sense.
Right? Right? Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see.